In our last episode, I made a series of stupid decisions that led to the worst white chocolate raspberry fudge known to humankind. This time, I went a little less crazy and got something that was a lot closer to being what I wanted and that anyone with any experience ought to be able to improve. I basically have the ingredients from what I normally do to avoid wastage. Starting off with 2 saucepans, I put 1.25 cups of sugar and 3/4 stick of butter in one and 3 ounces of raspberries and a little bit of water in the other. I used 1/4 cup just to give a rough idea of how much to use, but the exact amount shouldn't matter because a lot of the water is just going to get boiled off anyway. You just need enough to get it to disintegrate a little bit. This is eventually going to get made into a raspberry syrup. Heat went on medium-low for both of them. I just wanted to give the butter a little head start on melting and I didn't want anything to burn or caramelize, so I paid more attention to this pan and kept things moving. I crushed up the raspberries so they were more submerged in the water. Over here is pretty much trying to melt this butter without burning anything. It probably would have been better if I had melted the butter first before adding the sugar, but oh well. Once the raspberries got to a simmer for a few minutes, I got the strainer and poured the raspberry juice in with the sugar and butter. I kept this over low heat and stirred the butter so it could melt and mix in slowly. Let's see how long it takes me to realize that this piece of butter wrapper is in there. Oh, whoops, haha. I turned the heat up a bit and prepared the other ingredients. Half a small bag of marshmallows, about 5 ounces, 150 grams. A little over a cup of white chocolate chips, which I realized afterwards was a lie. Notice how it isn't labeled white chocolate, which means it doesn't have cocoa butter. Instead it has palm oil, which in addition to being responsible for the deforestation of some of the planet's most biodiverse ecosystems, possibly doesn't function the same as real cocoa-derived chocolate, but I don't know. I put in 1/3 cup of powdered milk because I'm not making the hot syrup with evaporated milk like I normally do. When I make normal chocolate fudge, I boil a mixture of evaporated milk, butter, and sugar up to 234 degrees Fahrenheit and mix it into a bowl of chocolate chips and marshmallows. And yeah, real premium chocolate chips seem to work better for me. Since I had just realized that what I was using wasn't a real chocolate product, I decided to heat the syrup up into the 240s, although I can't find anything to say that that was a good idea. This ended up getting close to 250 degrees. It's a smaller amount than I'm used to working with and therefore heated up a lot quicker. I decided to be a responsible human being and wore my big heat-resistant gloves. Boiling syrup is one of the more dangerous things you can work with in the kitchen. I waited to start mixing with the beaters after all the syrup was in to avoid flinging it all over the place. I had them on high and had to turn the speed down because it was quite viscous and it felt like they were struggling. Already I can tell that this is going to turn out better than my last attempt. Who knew this would work better than using egg whites? It seems to be thicker and setting up faster than it normally does when I make regular chocolate fudge. Perhaps it was because I let the syrup get hotter. I think the reason you typically boil it to 234 degrees is because it leaves a certain small percentage of water. Boiling to 250 would have therefore left an even smaller percentage of water, making the mixture thicker. I poured this into an 8x8 pan and yeah, it was kind of difficult to spread this out. Whenever you're making fudge, it's important to get it out before it starts cooling down. It was a struggle to get it spread out all the way, but I managed. It was tempting to just get my hands in there and push it, but that would have been a bad idea. Look how quickly it solidified just pouring it into the pan. Cut ahead until it was down to room temperature, and parchment paper is really handy to have for this reason. I could already tell that the texture was a little different. Fudge doesn't normally indent around the edges this way when you cut it. The marshmallow taste is pretty strong. I don't want to say it dominates the flavor, but it definitely makes itself known. I think I added too many. See how stretchy it is? Maybe I should have used like 10% fewer marshmallows and 10% more chips to get the texture I wanted. The raspberry flavor surprisingly wasn't very strong. If I do this again, I might try to use a whole 6-ounce pack of raspberries instead of a half. These may not be exactly what I wanted them to be, but they were still pretty tasty. Give it a try. You can experiment with the proportions of white chocolate chips and marshmallows if you are feeling adventurous. Just don't burn yourself on boiling syrup.